Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. It is Saturday night, November the 29th, 2014. For me, I'm actually recording this at a more normal time instead of well into the wee early of hours of the next day, of Sunday. This will, of course, go up on Sunday as it normally does. And boy, has it been a terrific week in very many ways. It's also been one of those weeks where I feel like suddenly the floodgates opened. I'm just pulled in 9 different directions. My brain is anyway. My physical body remains intact for now. But it has been Thanksgiving week. It's been we're just wrapping up here in the States the Black Friday following the Thanksgiving Thursday. For those of you unaware, Black Friday is so called because it is when the retailers finally make a profit for the year, and so they pull out all the stops, all the sales that you can think of. Everything must go. Everything must go. And I figured I'd hook on to that wheel a little bit here with some of the things I'm going to cover. I personally did not. Well, I've taken advantage of some of the Steam sale stuff. I have not taken advantage of the retail box stores and stuff. I generally on Black Friday tend to hide behind my computer, just kind of look around at the internet a little bit, see if there's any lightning deals on Amazon that catch my attention, which honestly the only one that caught my attention was the microphone that I use, the Yeti Blue Yeti, was on sale for, I think it was like $90 or something. It was a lightning sale. But I already have one, so I didn't need to buy another one. And beyond that, nothing really caught. I think the Xbox One was on sale, which, I mean, doesn't help me because I've already got one. And a few other peripherals, but I didn't really see any games on Amazon that caught my attention that I needed to grab in a lightning deal, or anything else really for that matter, any electronics of that magnitude. But that said, several of the gaming sites, or several of the traditional gaming online internet things have done their fall sales. I think GOG is over with its sales already. I think they had some Black Friday things going on, but it wasn't anything like the fall sale they had a little bit earlier. I think last week or whatever it was. And Steam, as predicted, followed up with their winter sale on the 26th, I believe, is when they started. And it goes till the 2nd of December, which is next Tuesday, if I'm doing my math correctly. Or I should say this Tuesday coming up. And I decided to... I do have like a little thing. I was trying to become like a Steam curator at some point, and I probably will do that once I actually have some free time to write reviews and stuff. But until then, I decided, you know what, let me just go through the big list of things on sale. And because I think Steam says they have like 5,000 or so titles that are on sale in this winter sale. So I thought, let me go through the big list of things. Let me pull out some titles that I think are probably pretty good, and that are on sale, and then relate them to you. And as I was doing that, I spent about I would say the better part of an hour and a half going through that list. I got to about page 60 or so, and there was I think something like 248 pages or something like that. So I got significantly further than I think most people would have gotten. I have pulled some what I think are gems out of the pile there. Things that I either have played myself or that are in my library, or otherwise are things that I've heard are really, really good. And I've decided to just pull them out into a list here, and we'll go over them a little bit and just show you some of the deals that are going on. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to be talking in terms of US dollars because that's the only thing that I I know and understand. That's the only thing that my brain works in. So if you are overseas, you're going to have to do your own finger calculations to figure out what these numbers mean to you. So we'll start off first with Terraria. That is 80% off as of the time that I'm recording this. It's going for $1.99. Terraria is an oldie but a goodie. It was in the first one, I would say, in the wake of the Minecraft clones, kind of. And I don't want to call it a clone because it's not really. It is its own. It is its own beast. It's a 2D side-scrolling Minecraft alike with all the mining and the building that you would expect. Most people who play Terraria do not really do it for the building aspects. There were quite a few screenshots that I remember in the day of people building some quite nice stuff that interacted with the scrolling backgrounds and whatnot. So it's certainly there. It's not going to blow your mind. There is like a redstone-ish type of thing that's basically wiring that you can use. Of all the people that I've seen, of all the YouTubers I've seen play Terraria, and I've played it myself as well, of all the people I've seen, I haven't seen anybody really dig into that mechanic at all. It mostly seems like the game is geared more towards leveling and the RPG-ish stuff, like, getting better gear, great loot, more loot, fighting monsters, fighting bosses, more and more bosses. Not really so much towards the actual building mechanics like in Minecraft. And I would say I would give the same assessment to Starbound as well, where it seems to be focused more on the looting and the killing and of bosses and various things like that. The building mechanics are there, but they're more of a I would say a side effect of the genre more than a driving gameplay mechanic, which is it is what it is. It's you can't always have your Legos in your RPG, as it were, but it's still a fantastic game. It had a pretty significant update to it that was free, as far as I remember. Free update to it that added even more boss monsters and everything else to it, even more armor sets and various other things. So I'm gonna go check that out. $1.99. It's pretty much as cheap as it's ever been, I would say, at 80% off. The next one I picked off the list, Middle Earth: The Shadow of Mordor. Still haven't played that myself. I have seen some videos on it. It still looks rather good. I still have to sit down and actually play it myself. I am waiting to do that. I can't wait to do it. There's too many things on my list right now. So I'm hoping to get into that soon-ish. But that is so that's in case you're unaware, that's an action RPG set in the Lord of the Rings universe, right before the events of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I believe, when Sauron was who was ultimately the big bad, was still gathering his power, and the orcs and Uruk-hai and all that stuff were just kind of just hiding behind the Black Gate and building up their numbers. And your goal is to go in and just create as much havoc as you possibly can inside the Black Gate. Try to stem the tide as you will. And that's 25% off right now. So it's going for $37.49. Skyrim, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is at 50% off, which is $9.99. This is just as far as I know, the base game. It's not the complete edition with all the expansion packs and whatnot. I think that is like $19.99 if I remember correctly. It's usually about 10. Usually the way they work is they're usually about $10 more, even when they're on sale for the complete editions of stuff. But I don't think I have to go too much into Skyrim. That's an RPG. I think that's well known, well bred, well supported by the community. Lots of if nothing else, I would buy Skyrim just for the fact that there are entire games being built on top of the engine for it that the community is going for. I'm thinking of a lot of the Morrowind community is building things on top of the Skyrim engine, sort of total conversions of Skyrim to have the Morrowind world, but also have all the mechanics of Skyrim and whatnot. So, and the visuals, obviously. So, if nothing else, a lot of these games, I might be reading off, a lot of them are good platforms for community stuff too. So, you always have to keep that in mind when you look at this stuff. Next car game, Wreckfest, not breakfast, Wreckfest. 50% off at $14.99. I have not played that game since it's actually got a name. I played it when it was just Next Car Game. I have access to it. I just have to get back into it again. It's just, it's one of the many, as you'll hear as I go along here, it's one of the many driving games I now have in my possession that I need to get into at some point in time. Tales from the Borderlands. I decided, after seeing some YouTube videos and seeing such the good reviews that the game has been getting, and all the comedic persona that it has, very very good, well-crafted comedy, I would say, based upon what I know of Borderlands, and it fits the universe very well, based obviously on what I know, which is not a whole lot. But I decided there was two things I needed to do. One was I needed to pre-order Telltale's A Game of Thrones Iron from Ice, which I did, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And while I was there, I was like, you know what? Tales from the Borderlands looks fantastic. I should probably pick that up. And so I did. And that was actually, 10% off. It's $22.49. For those of you unaware, I've seen a lot of comments around about people like trying to figure out what Telltale actually is, what the Telltale games are like, because they're starting to delve into stories that have different communities to them. So, for instance, Game of Thrones and Borderlands, and I mean, they did do The Wolf Among Us, which is another one, but that's sort of it was more of an outlier, I think, as far as the communities go, because that was it was a well-known comic book in a certain section of geekdom that I did not particularly subscribe to, but it's out there. And of course, The Walking Dead is probably a more visible first effort that they did. There's also a bunch of other games that they have on their list that Telltale has done, but I didn't bother to write the whole anthology of things down. But essentially, they are point-and-click games. They are, I guess you would call them, interactive stories, interactive novels, maybe. It's basically comes down to, there is some gameplay, like you walk around and there's a little bit of, there's not really pixel hunting, but there's a little bit of, point and click here, point and click there. Maybe not so much in the way of puzzles, usually not so much in the way of puzzles, which is good for me. But mostly it's there as a vehicle to tell a story and be a part of a story. And the engine is not much to write home about. It's, it largely has not changed in the many years that Telltale has been putting games out. They've pretty much been putting them all on the same engine, which allows them to focus a lot of time on just the mechanics and the story. And as you can see, they're releasing a lot of things at once here. So it's Tales from the Borderlands has been wildly successful for them, and I would say that probably Game of Thrones, right on its heels, will probably be also equally as successful. And so they're not graphical powerhouses by any stretch of imagination. They're mostly 2D graphics, mostly cel shaded. Although from what I've seen, the amount of cel shading depends upon the what kind of story they're trying to tell. So, for instance, the Walking Dead one was based on comic books, so they tried to make the visuals look a lot like the comic books. Same goes for The Wolf Among Us, so that some of the black lines around characters were a little bit thicker than they were in The Walking Dead per se, just to match the feel of the comic book. And Tales from the Borderlands has more of the Borderlands cel shading look to it, so some of the lines are a little bit more subtle and some are a little bit thicker. It really depends on the character that's on the screen, but it does fit the universe based upon the stories that are there. And then with Game of Thrones, it looks like they've gone for more of a, what they've called a painterly look and feel, where it's not so much cel shaded as it is more trying to paint paintings in large vistas and whatnot. So it's not going to match what you would expect, from a live action perspective, but it will probably still be good enough to immerse you in the world, and that's really all that we're looking for from a lot of these games. Well, for me anyway, because I really enjoy the story of games a lot more often than the mechanics of them. So Tales from the Borderlands, 10% off, $22.49. Wolfenstein: The New Order, I played through that game. That was a fantastic first-person shooter. It was quite I would say it was about maybe 10 hours of gameplay. I don't remember offhand. I actually have to go back and look to see how long it took me to do some of these things, because I need to update my pages on how long to beat. But yeah, I think it was about 10 hours of gameplay. Mostly single player. I don't really think there was any co-op or anything else on it. I think it was all single player. There was some extras in there, but nothing really to write home about. And but it was solid. It was solid all around as far as a single player FPS goes, with the writing and everything else. So that is 50% off right now, and which brings it down to $29.99. Mass Effect, the original Mass Effect, is on 75% off sale. That brings it down to $4.99. That Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2 were, well, let me put it this way. In my order, Mass Effect was the better of the trilogy. That said, I did not play Mass Effect 3. I did watch some videos of it and realized it was just not really my cup of tea from the videos that I saw. But from the games that I played, Mass Effect seems to be the best one in the series, followed by Mass Effect 2. The thing that got me about Mass Effect 2 was that it was more of the same, but they kept doing this whole ratcheting up, like, oh, now you're saving the galaxy, and now you're saving this, and now you're saving that, and that's really what made me cringe a lot. Was the story was sort of, it was not as good, I felt. It was a little bit overreaching, and then I think that's the thing that turned me off about Mass Effect 3 was that the story just got so overblown and so meme ridden that I was like, you know what, screw this. I play RPGs for the story, not for really anything else. But yeah, Mass Effect is an RPG. It is a it's a third-person shooter RPG. So there are like the shooter mechanics in it and various other things. But also there are also the RPG mechanics of leveling up and experience points, and you got, based on choices you made in the game, you got either Paragon points or what was the other one? Corruption points. I forget what it. There was Paragon, and then there was the dark side. There was the light side, and then there was the dark side. And based upon what choices you made, gave you either light side points or dark side points, which then affected not only how you looked to people, like you would get, more visible scarring and all kinds of things like that when you were a darker character, but also how you reacted in certain situations. From, you go from diffusing an argument to just creating arguments wherever the hell you want to. So it had a lot of the dialogue tree and options that you would expect from an RPG, a well-formed RPG, and it was sci-fi. So right up my alley. So Mass Effect, the original Mass Effect, is 75% off at $4.99. Mass Effect 2 was also 75% off at $7.49. And I've already talked a little bit about both of those. Mass Effect 2, like I said, it was more of the same as Mass Effect, although it introduces some new characters and reintroduces a few old ones along the way, but not really. It introduces some of the more interesting characters, I think, from the story. It does suffer from a final series of missions that are kind of ridiculous as far as the way your characters have to interact with stuff. But I don't want to spoil anything. But that's that's my thought on it. What else we have here? Kerbal Space Program. Kerbal Space Program is 25% off at $22.49. They recently had an update that added explodey buildings, as well as a monetary system, I guess I forget what they call it, but it's more like you have to actually maintain your finances, and you can go on jobs that then give you additional funding and all that stuff. It's basically the management sim portion of the game that they had promised for a long time. They've started to actually flesh out now. So you might want to jump into that if building giant rockets, giant ridiculous rockets, and flying out into space and landing on various planetary bodies and doing some research and science and bringing it all back with you and keeping your little Kerbins alive is right up your alley. Then there you go. One of the things that is also good about Kerbal Space Program is it does have a very active modding community. There's lots of mods out there for it, for both the visuals and for auditory things, like adding in like the more I guess realistic audio, where you hear a lot of the beeps and the boops and the static that you would get from an actual space program or space radio, as well as camera mods. And there's also things to add, different rocket parts, community mods for that, and community mods for, I believe there was a community mod to actually add in re-entry, burn through, and all that stuff. So a lot of interesting stuff. In there. It is you will lose yourself in that game if you're into space and rocketry and all that kind of thing. Deus Ex Game of the Year Edition. Yes, this is the one that started it all. The gateway drug of all gateway drugs. 50% off at $3.49. Deus Ex is a first-person shooter with RPG elements in it and a fantastic story. Even I think the thing that the visuals don't really hold up as far as the original Deus Ex goes. They're just, if you're going into it expecting a visual treat, you're going to really hate life, because the models were terrible, the textures were terrible, but the redeeming quality, the thing that brings everybody back to the table, is the mechanics and the story. You can hack computers, you can hack cameras, you can hack security bots, you can level up your character. You've got augmentations that you can install in your body. All kinds of interesting and awesome stuff, and a good storyline to go along with it, as well as alternate endings. Several endings. I believe there were 3 endings that you can freely choose once you get to Area 51. So the Game in a Year edition was basically all that. It was just all bug fixes and various other tweaks that were made. Nothing crazy or special about it. However, it is important if you're trying to do mods, if you're trying to get mods, there are lots and lots of mods for the original Deus Ex, both for adding better textures, adding HD-ish textures, doing maybe audio tweaks, various other things in the game. There's also an entire, not a total conversion, but a reimagining of the game. Not even a reimagining, a revamping of the original game that's going on right now. And so all those things, I believe, are built off of the Game in a Year edition. So if you want to get involved in that community, or you want to have mods and stuff installed, you're probably going to want to pick up the Game of the Year edition, not the older edition than that. And right alongside with that, Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut, the game that I am playing through myself, the game that I very nearly rage quit the other day as I was recording, because it pulled a really bastard move on me towards the I guess I'm near the end of the game now, but it pulled a really terrible move on me. But I'm not going to talk about that here. I'll talk about that. I'll save my comments on that for the actual game itself. But that said, it is very faithful to the original Deus Ex. It is better in every respect of the word from the original. The Director's Cut edition removed the piss yellow tint that was permeated throughout the game, because your character wears yellow tinted glasses, and so when they first originally released the Deus Ex Human Revolution game, everything was tinted that terrible yellow color. They finally said, you know what, we're going to listen to some feedback from the community, which was overwhelmingly telling them that sucked, and it made the whole world look just absolutely terrible. They removed it quite a bit. There's only a slight yellow tint now to things, and it makes all the textures and everything else, the world just looks beautiful now because of it. So also there's a bunch of mods. There's not a whole lot of mods. There's 3 mods that I know of as far as the Deus Ex Human Revolution goes. One of which is to sort of enable the other mods, which is basically a debug menu. And then the other one is inventory tweaks, which gives you basically a better inventory than what you have. It allows you to stack more on various items in your inventory, and a visuals mod that improves even more all the visual quality of the game. So, Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut, that was 50% off at $9.99. So you might want to take a look at that if you're into the Deus Ex stuff. Just Cause 2. I've played this game on the Xbox 360, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's where I played it, because I don't have it on my PC, so it must have been where I played it. It's a pretty good game. It's, I would say, a very light version of, very, very light version of Far Cry, some of the Far Cry games. It has some of the same mechanics. You go around and you basically blow up a bunch of buildings and try to quote unquote liberate an island. The hook the hook of the game is basically a grapple hook that your character has that is ridiculously overpowered. Allows you to do various things, like, for instance, when you parachute out of a plane, you can use your grapple hook to pull yourself around the world while you're still tethered to your parachute. You can use it to grapple onto planes in flight and take them over. It's pretty pretty crazy mechanics in the game. And it was a lot of fun. It was you don't necessarily play it for the story, because the story is but you do play it. It was one of those games that I sat down and I played whenever I just need to blow off some steam. It was one of those games. It's like, you know what? I'm tired of getting pissed on today. Let me go and blow up some shit. and so it was done. And so shit was blown up. That is how I classified Just Cause 2, as being the I need to blow off some steam version, or a game, I should say. They did eventually have a multiplayer patch that came out, and apparently it was equally as ridiculous. So I never played it on multiplayer, so I have no idea. I was on the Xbox 360 version, so patches for me were few and far between. Let's see. The Banner Saga is 50% off at $9.99. I've played a little bit of it. I intend on recording a Let's Play of it eventually. It is a tactical RPG, turn-based, well, not turn-based, but tactical, yeah, I guess it is turn-based. Tactical turn-based RPG with a very, very cool art aesthetic style to it. It has a decent story from what I've seen. I've only played about an hour of it, just because I wanted to play an hour of it to see what it was like, to see if it would be something that I'd want to record. And after that hour, I said, yes, indeed, this is something I want to record. So it might be an interesting thing. You'll probably want to look at some videos of other people playing it. Lots and lots of people have already played this game as Let's Plays. So you'll be better served to watch them first before you plunk down $10 on it. But yeah, it's just popped on my list because I felt that was something that would be interesting. I know it's something interesting for me. Divinity Original Sin, the game that I've been playing off and on live streams. And I've been remiss, but I do have a bunch of footage still recorded of that I need to get edited. It's taken me a long time to edit the large amounts of failure out of it. So that's the only reason why it's been so few and far between so far. But Divinity Original Sin is RPG. It feels a lot like an old school RPG, a lot like an Icewind Dale-ish type of thing, sort of, or a Baldur's Gate-ish game, but not quite, but somewhat like that. It does have all the staple RPG stuff, the items and loot and various quests, lots and lots and lots of quests. The biggest complaint I have is that if you're expecting to go into it like most RPGs where the quests actually make sense, you're going to be sadly mistaken. A lot of the quests, you will get to points where you have no idea what you need to do next. I can't tell you how many times I've looked up walkthroughs of the game because I'm just utterly stuck. It's like I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. The game is not very clear about it, or what I need to do to make this quest be completed. You feel like you've completed the quest, but there's still someone else you need to talk to, some random person somewhere. It's just that is my biggest complaint about the game as it stands. But I would be remiss in just hyping it up without telling you the downfall of it. But that's what I have so far on that. Don't Starve. I've played this game a bit off camera for a while back. It's 40% off at $8.99. It is a survival simulator. It is 2D. I don't know of any game that it's quite like, other than to say that it's basically plunks you into a world that is randomly generated. In your character, you basically have to do anything you can to not starve. So you have a food mechanic, a graphic of a stomach on the side, as well as your health. And you have to go around and chop down trees, and hopefully they're not trees that actually come to life and attack you, and basically build stuff, gather resources, build machinery, just try to survive for as long as you can. The longer you're in the game, the more the game becomes a dick to you. I mean, like, literally, you could just be standing there minding your own business, and all of a sudden 15 tree beasts just out of nowhere come after you, or giant pigs, or any kind of numerous things that the game does to throw at you to be a real bastard. It does have sort of a little bit of a roguish feel to it, because the idea is, survive as many days as you can, and as soon as you die, it's permadeath, right? There is, I believe, a mode where it's not permadeath that they introduced later on, but for the most part, the normal mode was just permadeath. As soon as you died, that was it. You started back from zero again. So that's out there. Don't starve. Saints Row the Third, 50% off right now at $7.49. This is, I've played some of Saints Row 4, and I got tired of it. I played a couple hours of it and just got tired of it. It was too grindy. Saints Row the Third was fantastic. I played it all the way through to the end. I almost had 100% completion even on it. There were just a bunch of like side missions that along the world that I hated and I didn't want to deal with. That's the only reason why I didn't have 100% completion. But otherwise, went through the entire story and loved every bit of it. It is just completely over the top. It is, if you take GTA and you make it so that it doesn't take itself seriously, and it just goes just balls crazy, just doing whatever the hell you want to do, and just being a complete meme of itself, you will have a shade of Saints Row the Third. It is quite good when you want to you just want to turn your I don't know what I was going to say there. I was going to say shift. I don't know why, but when you want to turn your brain off for a couple hours and just let the ridiculousness roll, Saints Row the Third is right there with it. It reminds me a lot in that regard of Just Cause 2, where I could just jump into Saints Row the Third and just blow off some steam. Like, hey, you know what? I just feel like just destroying the heck out of this place. And you could do it. Or, you can jump into a plane and bomb it from the air if you want to. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Game of the Year Edition. Yes, it is out there. It is 40% off, and it is $14.99. Oblivion is another game that I played all the way through on the Xbox 360. And I say all the way through as in all the way through the main campaign. I did have I believe I had the Game of the Year Edition on the Xbox 360. And because I had all the expansion packs, which at the time was something about the Knights of the Round or something like that, and the Crazy Man's place, which I can't, Sheograth or whatever his name was, his place, the something Isles, Shivering Isles, that's what it was. So I had those expansion packs. Did not play any of them, and got all the way to the end of the main campaign. I was basically on an achievement hunt at that point, and I went through most of the guild quests. I had, I think, pretty much all the guilds done except for, no, I think actually I finished all the guilds, all the guild quests, and then I wanted to move on to the next expansion, and then by that point I had played about 120-30 hours of the game, and I was like, I'm tired of it now. So I never actually played the expansions because I just got tired of the main game. But it's a game that I go back to for when I think of the Elder Scrolls games, because the thing I don't like about Morrowind and the thing I don't like about Skyrim is that they're very brown and very unappealing to look at. There's some good vistas in there, and there's some bright, shiny areas. But as far as, bright, shiny, like areas that you want to spend time in, like green acres of grass and various other things, Oblivion is always the one that comes back to my mind, because it was just one of those games where I could literally get on a horseback and just ride around the countryside and do nothing except look for ruins. just because it was that beautiful. It was just so gorgeous a game. I don't know how much of that I would actually do in Skyrim, because it looks like, from what I've seen in videos, it doesn't look like it has the same appeal to me as far as the colors and whatnot go. And Morrowind, same way. I don't think that I would have that kind of appeal based upon what I've seen of it. That might change, if some of these community-based mods come out, but so far that's what I've seen of that. So yeah, Oblivion is out there. Burnout Paradise, the Ultimate Box, is 75% off at $4.99. I have played the heck out of Burnout Paradise. I love it. I love it to death. I also played Burnout Revenge. Both of these on the 360. I played a little bit of the Ultimate Box, Burnout Paradise, the Ultimate Box, on the PC as well in a live stream. But it's just a fantastic game. It's a nice open world game, and all the cars have nitrous, and it's just ridiculous. You can do all these stunt jumps and various other things. You drive up to various corners in Paradise City, and each one has some kind of either race or some challenge, like a stunt challenge or whatnot. And you just go and do your thing, and just it's a nice little romp. It's a nice racing game for those of us that really suck when it comes to racing games. Like the cars in that game, you could get up to a ridiculous speed and still have a ton of maneuverability and control over them. That's the thing that I always liked about it, is that I could get cars up to just crazy speeds and still be in full control. Whereas if I play, say, Forza Horizon 2, you get up to those crazy speeds, and it's just like there's nothing doing, right? It's like eventually you're just going to spin out without even touching the thumbstick at all. It's just going to spin out on its own. It just does. I can't explain it. But Burnout Paradise, it was very tight controls. It was very good all around. The only downfall to it is it will get the EA tracks after a while will get a little bit annoying, particularly the fact that it's constantly playing. I mean, I'm a big fan of the 80s hair metal, but after a while you do get tired of hearing Guns N' Roses Paradise City after a while. But it works. It works on all levels, and I love that game. So that's out there for you. Now is a good time to pick it up. It's only $4.99 US. Dishonored is 50% off at $9.99. I have not played this game. I do not own the game. I have watched Let's Plays of it. It looks pretty good. It looks like Thief, basically, only put on a different storyline altogether. It has some of the light RPG elements to it. It is a sneaky game. It is meant to be a stealth game. Although you can play it as a different, you can be a little bit more out and out and just go through and murder everybody if you want to. But it is a little bit more rewarding, I would say, doing it stealthy. Just like sort of Deus Ex games. They are a little bit more, you can go in guns blazing and kill everything, but they are a little bit slightly more rewarding when you go in and you get out without really being noticed or seen by anybody. Or at least not noticed until you slit their throats. But it does have a fairly decent storyline. It's got some lore around it, so you might want to take a look at that. FTL is 50% off at $4.99. This is a good roguelike game, 2D space game that will punish the hell out of you. I have made it to the end of the game several times, but I have never actually beat the game. It's that hard. You get to the last boss. The last boss is pretty ridiculous. But it is a very fun game. It's basically there's nodes in space. You fly to them. You pick which direction you want to go. You end up in these encounter nodes, and the game just tries to throw whatever it can at you and try to make you fail, and it often succeeds. So that one. Mirror's Edge is 75% off at $4.99. I have played through this game on my channel. It is fantastic. I love the hell out of it. Mirror's Edge 2 was announced a while back. That is in development. I cannot wait. I love Mirror's Edge. I love the free running that it does. I even played a Mirror's Edge themed Minecraft map because I love it so much. If you're into the free running stuff, the parkour-ish stuff, it's very solid in the game. It's up in the air as to whether or not you'll have better chance with the controller versus the keyboard and mouse. Some people have better control with keyboard and mouse. I always played it with the controller because I felt like that was a much better mechanism for doing a lot of the twists and turns and jumps and bobs and everything else that you do. But that still, the story of it was forgettable. The story was just there mostly to get you to the various areas that allow you to just run free and do all kinds of stunts and everything else. So it was good in that respect. It just got you to where you needed to be. But otherwise, if you're looking for a story, you're not going to find too much of it there. But it is still interesting in its own right, I suppose. But it's not, it's not going to knock your socks off. Bastion is 60% off at $5.99. Bastion, and also in the same lines, Transistor is 25% off at $14.99. They are both by the same company, and they both have the same kind of feel and look to them. Well, not look, but same kind of feel to them. They are narrator-driven games. There's a narrator that's ever present, narrating what you do on screen. Bastion was an action game, so you run through and just slash and burn and kill whatever you could in a world that had been shattered. So the world would actually build itself around you as you walked around. The maps would anyway. And in Transistor, it was the same kind of idea, but the world was being destroyed slowly. Instead of being built around you, it was being destroyed slowly around you. And Transistor introduced tactical modes, not turn-based, but tactical modes where you go around and plan your moves, and then your character would go and perform them and that kind of thing, as well as it had more of the computer terminology side of things to it. Both stories, both Bastion and Transistor, I thought the stories were very good. The story in Transistor was good. It was very good. It was not rememberable too much. I mean, it was there. It was good. It made sense, but it wasn't fantastic awesome. Bastion, the story was very similar. It wasn't fantastic awesome, but it was good for what it needed to be. And it was also, I think, in my opinion, slightly more interesting story than the one in Transistor. Even though Transistor speaks a lot to my computer-related skills, it still felt more organic and better in Bastion than it did in Transistor. But that's just my humble opinion on it. But both of those are on sale, and I want to take a look at them. Where else? I've been jumping around on my list a little bit here. Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2. Two fantastic games. They are RPG games. They are in the Star Wars universe. They are just very good creations. They are, dialogue trees, just a nerd's wet dream, I would say, basically, for both of those games. I have not played Knights of the Old Republic. I have played KOTOR 2, though, and I can tell you that I did not finish KOTOR 2. I got a significant portion of the game done, but just because I did not finish an RPG does not mean it wasn't a fantastic RPG. It's just that I have this thing, and I've mentioned it before, where I get tired of the RPG about usually 60 to 70% of the way through. I have this thing where it just happens. And I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying to actually see the ending of things. It's just that I get into this path where I need to complete every side quest. Every side quest must be done. Everything must be done. I must do everything. Must collect everything. Must do everything. And I end up burning myself out of the game before I actually get to the ending. And that's what happened with KOTOR 2. And I suspect when I go and play KOTOR 1, which I have on my list to do, I would probably happen there as well. But still, they are fantastic games. Just because I didn't finish them doesn't mean they're not fantastic, especially from a writing perspective and everything else. So you owe it to yourself, if you're a Star Wars fan, to take a look at those. Evil Genius. This is an old game. I decided to pull out some old games out of the locker here that happened to be on Steam that I didn't even know were on Steam, but apparently are now. Evil Genius is an old school, old time, not old school, but oldie. Released several years ago. It's a real-time strategy game where you are what it says on the title. You are an evil genius, and you have an island compound that you build up, and you hire minions, and you send your minions out into the world to create all kinds of chaos, and that gives you more rapport against the world, and that gives you more money coming in, and you build some more stuff, and you get some more notoriety, and so on and so forth. It's actually a really good game. The UI for it might be a little bit rough around the edges, and it can be, the difficulty curve can really twist on you at various times, because you do have to defend your island compound from spies who are trying to take over, and various other do-gooders trying to mess all your fun. But it does, and it conveys a lot of its help through unskippable videos. So you know, buyer beware there. But I mean, it is still a good game if you can look past some of those blemishes. Uplink. This is another old game that I decided to put on here because I've played it and it was fantastic back in the day. It's 90% off at 99 cents. I mean, you can't really beat that right now. It is a hacker game where you take on the role of a hacker and you basically hack into all these various computer nodes along the way, and you get missions via email and various other things, and you try to go and get to the very end without getting caught, without getting your equipment taken away from you or hacked by the feds. It's minimal. It's a very minimal thing. The UI that you have is just very minimalistic. You have a map, and you have some various little windows that pop up, and nothing else. It's just very, as I said, minimal artwork, minimal UI to it. So if you're looking for something like, fantastically awesome as far as graphics go, you're going to be disappointed. But it is a good game in its own right, and I mean, it's $1, so why not? Why not go for it? It's very few hacker games out there that are actually halfway decent. This game kept me interested for quite some time, so very good game back in the day. Breath of Death 7 and Cthulhu Saves the World are both 67% off at 98 cents. That brings them down to 98 cents. These are new, old school RPGs. They were made by I forget the name of the company now, but they were made as sort of retro throwbacks. They are top-down RPGs that you go around and turn-based, so you have all the menus like fight and then wait and then defend and all that stuff, and they have a pretty good story to them, so they're not bad. If you're having that like nostalgia itch where you're like, hey, I kind of want to play something that sort of reminds me a little bit of the original Dragon Warrior, then you might be in good hands with these games. They do add a little bit of quirks to the normal formula that you would mention that are there, like being able to actually clear out an area sometimes, not have any more random encounters. But other than that, very solid offerings. So, and let's see what else. I have a bunch more on here. How much time do I have? Man, I am running up against an hour. I had a ton of things on here that I want to talk about. Let me just go through the rest of my list really fast here without going into too much detail. And then let's move on to some of the releases that are coming out very soon. So what else do I have on here? Chronicles of Mystara, that's 50% off at $7.49. That's Dungeons and Dragons Chronicles of Mystara. That's the videos I tried to put up on YouTube, but got hit with a content ID claim, so you probably won't see them for any time soon. But I did a live stream of that entire game, so hopefully I'll be able to get that, guys, to you, get that live stream, the recording of that live stream to you at some point in the future. Torchlight, the original Torchlight, 50% off at $7.49. A fantastic RPG game. Evoland, 25% off at $7.49. Again, a RPG game that sort of evolves as you go. It starts out with an early 8-bit stages, and then as you go along, you unlock the more graphical fidelity areas. Startopia, 75% off at $1.49. This is a space station, a real-time strategy game. It's rather fantastic. I have it on my long list of things that I wish to do eventually on my channel. I played it a long time ago, enjoyed the heck out of it, would like to revisit it. Space Run is 33% off at $10.04. I've had several episodes of that done on my channel. You can take a look at it. It is a sort of tower defense. Well, it is basically a tower defense game, but except the towers are moving and everything else is moving at it. And I've just hopelessly stuck on the one level. That's why I haven't posted any more episodes of that, but eventually I will. Saturday Morning RPG is 75% off at $1.74. I have an entire playthrough of Saturday Morning RPG. It is fantastic. I enjoyed the heck out of it. They are having an episode 5 coming out sometime. They haven't announced when, but they did announce that they are working on episode 5 of it. So you might want to pick it up. It's very cheap, and it's very good game for the price that you're getting. Ghostmaster, this one I pulled out of the vinyl archives here, 85% off at 74 cents. This is another real-time strategy game with a twist. You are a ghost, and you're a master of ghosts, and the idea is to go to several different places, several different maps, and haunt them. Haunt these houses, haunt these castles and various boats and other things, and try to drive out all the occupants. And as you do it, you gain power. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty good game. Tachyon the Fringe is 66% off at $3.39, again from the vinyl archives. This is a space fighter game that I intend to play eventually on my channel, that I played a long time ago. It is fantastic, has a great story. It is a lot like Wing Commander and various other like Privateer and Freelancer, various other games of that nature. So very cool. And Bruce Campbell is the voice of the main protagonist, so that always increases it in my brain. All right, so we have some releases coming up very shortly here as I try to get them on my screen. So let's see, how much time do I have? I'm running low, so let's see what I can do here. First one. Congratulations to the dev of Interstellaria. He's releasing a beta, or has released the beta, which is only for Kickstarter backers like myself right now. But he got a mention on RPS, on Rock Paper Shotgun, and I'll link you to the article on Rock Paper Shotgun so you can take a look at what Interstellaria actually is. So I just wanted to send a shout out and a congratulations to the dev of that. I will eventually get around to making a video of that. Again, I'm pulled in many directions, but I have a lot of vacation time coming up, so hopefully I'll be able to get around to that. Okay, so some releases now. The Crew is going to be released on Tuesday, December the 2nd. I also am going to link you to another article that talks about how Ubisoft is warning people not to trust early reviews of The Crew because it requires multiplayer servers to be up and running and be populated. I'm very worried. I had very high hopes for The Crew. I still have high hopes for The Crew, which is a racing game, by the way, in case you're wondering, where you race across the United States. But I'm very worried about it because I'm seeing these articles from Ubisoft like, hey, don't rely on reviews, And I'm also seeing that I tried to play the beta and couldn't even play that. It wouldn't even work on my machine, on my PC here at all. So I'm very concerned, very concerned. I'm hoping, I have my fingers crossed that this will be a good launch and that I have yet another racing game on my list of things that I need to play or will play. Let's see. Also, on December 2nd, Telltale is releasing the Game of Thrones Fire from Ice game. I have pre-ordered it. It is in the Telltale, the normal Telltale engine, so it is point and click. It is an interactive novel, and it takes place in an area that is only mentioned briefly in the books, but will somehow have ties into the television show, even remote ties, if that. And of course, it does reprise several of the voice acting roles of several cast of the live action City of Heroes, live action Game of Thrones. There's another item on here about City of Heroes. That's why I got those two in my brain at the same time. So that is coming out December 2nd. You might want to pre-order it now if you want, or just wait until then and see what reviews are on it. Also coming out very shortly to early access, to Steam Early Access on December the 9th is Distance, and I will link you to the trailer on their YouTube channel because they didn't put any news up on their main site about it. The only way I knew that it was coming out to early access on December 9th is that I got a tweet. I looked at Twitter, so I'll link you instead to their YouTube video, which actually says the same thing. You can take a look at that. It is the spiritual successor to Nightronic Rush, which I did a side quest video on very recently, last week, in celebration of the fact that Distance is finally going to be out in a form that I can get my hands on. It'll be an open beta at that point. It'll still be early access. It'll still be open beta. But from what I've seen from people who have had access to the closed beta, because they've funded the Kickstarter, it is a rather good game. It takes Nightronic Rush to probably the next level. So if you like the video that I did on Nightronic Rush, you'll probably more than likely like what's going on with Distance. And as soon as I get my hands on it, I will try to do a video of it as well. What else we got here? Also, an indie game that I've been following for a little while. Phoenix Universe of Space Combat is a 2D top-down game in the spirit of Subspace, which was an older multiplayer game where it's basically space fighters shooty at each other, and in a multiplayer setting. It was actually pretty simple. It was an unreleased game, Subspace that was. It was pretty simple, put together, but it was very fun, very addicting to play. Unfortunately, it ran afoul of a lot of cheating and other things. But someone has taken it upon themselves to build a spiritual successor to it, namely the Phoenix Universe of Space Combat, and it is nearing a preview demo soon. The developer said they're about 98% close to having a demo available for everybody to take a look at. They have several videos out there as well for you to take a look at. I'll link you to their IndieDB site, which will give you more information on that. But it is something that I have been following for quite some time, and I'm hoping that is very, very good indeed, because I've been wanting something like Subspace for a while. I actually tried to go back and take a look at Subspace a while back, and it's weird now. It's like you can't. They were so anal about the cheaters that you can't even have antivirus software on your computer anymore. It's in order to play the game, it's crazy. It's crazy pants is what it is, which is why I'm really hoping for something that is far more playable and far more usable now, given where we're at in the state of things. But let me see here. I think we are just about finished for this week of this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and sticking around. A lot of things going on, lots of news. And I will see you guys next Sunday.